Welcome to the Exponential Edge podcast with your host, Arya Salur. I'm excited to have you join me on this journey, exploring the forefront of technological advancements and innovation that will shape our future. As a junior at Acton-Boxborough Regional High School in Massachusetts and the CEO of SecArmor, a cybersecurity startup, I'm fascinated by the transformative power of technology. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into 5 key areas that are poised for exponential growth in the next decade. We'll be exploring the realms of cybersecurity, generative AI, sustainability and climate tech, biotech and human longevity, as well as the reshoring of manufacturing. And we'll also go over rising startups disrupting the marketplace. These topics and businesses hold immense potential to revolutionize our world and redefine the way we live, work, and interact. Each episode will feature insightful conversations with experts, thought leaders, and visionaries who are at the forefront of these fields. In just 30 minutes, our goal is to provide you with 5 signature nuggets of wisdom from our guests. These key takeaways will empower you with knowledge and help you stay ahead in an ever-evolving technological landscape. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest for this week. Hi everyone and Happy New Year. Today, I'm very happy to introduce our guest, Richa Jain Kalra, a primetime newscaster in India, along with the founder of Achichi Khabar and the blog Let Us Figure Out Life, along with being an author herself. Hi, Richa. How are you doing?
Hi, Arya. Thanks for having me, and it's great to join you and your audience through your podcast. And I wish everybody a great new year ahead. May 2024 be a fabulous year for each one of you, people listening out there, everybody around.
Of course. So, first off, do you think you could just briefly go over your career for our viewers?
So I started off in 2002. Now that sounds like a lot of time back. Yeah, almost more than 21 years back. And news and my news career kind of just happened. I never planned it. I wanted to be something else. I had a science background in my school, in my 10 plus 2. So I aspired to be a big architect, but somehow that didn't happen the way I wanted. Maybe destiny wanted me to do this. And so it just happened, and I lapped it up because I had interest in news since my school days, my earlier childhood days. I used to read papers, newspapers. At that time, there was no internet. So I used to go to library and see what's in the papers or listen to TV news with family. At that time, there was only national television, Doordarshan at home. So I had an interest in news, but I never thought of taking it up as my career. But when what I wanted to be did not happen, then I thought that, okay, this option came up, and I thought of just trying my hand. Let's see. I've always been very clear about doing things in which I have interest. I would not do anything if I'm not interested in it. So that was one thing in my mind when I was choosing a career after 10 plus 2, that, okay, I have interest in news. So this could be one of the things. And it has come out pretty well, I can say, in the last over 20 years. So I did my journalism honors from Delhi University. I was a gold medalist in the entire university in the 3-year course. Then I did my internship, and during the internship, I got a job offer. And that's how my career began. But I also did my master's in mass comm later while being on the job from Kurukshetra University. And journalism, news, and communication is more of a, learn while you earn kind of a job. So here you develop yourself more as you work.
Yep, definitely. I've kind of experienced that myself at this minor level. But I'm also curious about your journey because you founded 2 companies. One is a blog, Let Us Figure Out Life, and your good news company, Achichi Khabar. So could you please delve into your inspiration and spark that led you to start those 2?
Sure. So this thing happened in 2000. 3 years back, 2020, when kind of
Yep.
COVID was at its peak. And
Mhm.
I was having this feeling, this, realization deep within that I've spent enough time in the mainstream media, being on the television and being in the thick of news, doing everything one aspires to be. And so I realized that for me to grow further, I need to do something that is out of my comfort zone, something that is deeply satisfying, inspiring, and of course, it has to be positive. It has to be inspirational. And during COVID, I realized that, there was a lot of negativity all around us. I'm a very positive person personally. And I felt that life is not as bad as it seems to be. It's just that, we're not having enough access to positive content, positive news
Yep.
because of the
Mhm.
situation around us. So that was, and this urge was so strong that I, decided to take this up full time, and I quit my news TV career at that time. Though uh, it wasn't easy because my company didn't want me to go, but I had made up my mind that I want to do something that is inspirational, something that is positive, that makes people feel good. So that was the basic idea. And so I started writing since I'm also an author. I love writing. So let's figure out life was the first thing that happened. And the blog started receiving good reviews, good feedback. And since I've always been a TV person, so people started asking me, why don't you make videos? I started doing some motivational videos. That also started working. And then I figured out that, I should be doing something in the space of positive news, as this is one space, this is one gap which doesn't have, enough players. It doesn't have enough good
Yep.
content, though there are so many good things happening around us. But
Yeah.
unless these are reported, these won't get disseminated, these won't get
Mhm.
known to people. So that was the idea of, bringing good things to people, good news that brightens up their day, helps them see the brighter side of life. Life is also good. There's so many good people around us doing fabulous work. So this was the basic idea that led to the start of Achi Khabar and Let's Figure Out Life.
Mhm. Awesome. And India obviously has been growing tremendously in the last few years, and I've actually interviewed a few CEOs and executives from Indian companies that are seeing tremendous growth. Uh, so I wanted to ask you, from your unique vantage point as a journalist, what trends do you see fueling India's rapid growth, especially because of their young demographic and taking up huge improvements in tech along with foreign
Not
investors?
just tech, I would say
Mhm.
big time investments in infrastructure. If
Yep.
you just
Hmm.
talk about the roads and highways, India is now second to USA
Yeah.
in the world in the network of roads and highways, and this has happened in the last 8 9 years. There's been exponential growth in roads in the network of highways. Similarly, you said tech. Apart from that, manufacturing. India aspires to be the manufacturing hub of the world. Sometime back, China had that title, and India is investing a lot in manufacturing, giving incentives to manufacturers from around the world. That is why Apple is now producing in India, and made in India phones, made in India iPhones are now exported all over the world.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
manufacturing is one space that has become very bright because India realizes that uh, it has a very large and very youthful workforce. India is the youngest country in terms of demographics in the world. So I think manufacturing serves not just this purpose, but also the strategic purpose because of our relationship with China. We want to lessen our dependence on our neighbor, which is also a rival in so many terms. So I think manufacturing is picking up. And if you see the results of the last quarter, July to September quarter, the result has been quite bright, 7.6%, which is much more what the RBI predicted. So things look bright now. And I think going ahead, um, Indians are also becoming conscious. And apart from that, if you look at the development, um, after COVID, the economy is picking up, and India remains the brightest spot in terms of economic growth. Everybody is heading to India for investments because, despite the headwinds of recession, India is growing well and is touted to remain bullish for the next few years, according to the World Bank.
Hmm. And it's really interesting that you mentioned those other fields because most people do talk about India just as a tech hub now, but at least around me. But I did want to just talk about some of the prior CEOs that I've interviewed because I feel that they'd be a great link to what you're doing as well. As their companies focus on positive impact. One of them is a healthcare company. It's called Niramai. They use
Yes.
AI and
Mhm.
thermal imaging to help with breast cancer detection. You've heard of them?
Yeah, yeah. I've interviewed. We did a story on them. We covered
Oh,
them.
you did? Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a great coincidence. And another one, I don't know if you've interviewed them also. They're a renewable energy company. It's called Blue Pine. And
Mm. I've heard, but
recently,
I've not.
mhm. Recently they've gotten $800 foreign investment from a UK firm, which just speaks to what you said about how investors are so much more willing to help these new Indian companies get going.
Also, talking about renewable energy, India is ahead of its goals in terms of renewable energy targets. We want to be carbon net
Yep.
zero by
Hmm.
2070, and India has invested big time in renewable energy. So, green energy is another space where India offers a lot of potential, and it is actually doing better than what it had aimed for.
Hmm. And definitely both of these companies are kind of going towards this main theme that I've seen in my podcast, which is the human longevity aspect. Just trying to improve the quality and length of human life. So
Right.
India is definitely doing a great job with that. So you must have also come across some other incredible stories uh, that I wasn't planning on covering today. So do you think you could just express some of those stories that are deeply rooted in India but have a global impact?
Stories that are already around, or stories which were there earlier and did found a global echo?
Um, I mean, either just stories which you've covered in your career that you feel would be a great, inspiring addition to this podcast.
uh, at Achi Khabar, we've done more than 400 stories in the last less than 2 years. So
That's
there have
really
been,
impressive.
yeah, there have been so many stories of people doing exemplary work in the
Hmm.
social sector. I wish these stories get more attention.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it would be unfair to just point out one because there's so many of them. But I want to talk about this Muslim woman. She runs a cafe in Delhi's Jamia, which
Hmm.
is a Muslim inhabited area. And she herself is a well educated person. She's working
Yeah.
in the tech sector, but she, along with her husband, runs a cafe just for Muslim women, not just Muslim women, just for women, where women could eat, pray, and party. So the highlight is pray. And when I interviewed her, I asked her, why did you choose to make this prayer place as well where you could offer namaz? She said, we have so many namazes in the day, like more than four namaz each day a devout Muslim has to do. And several times the Muslim women are out of their home shopping or doing some other chores, so they miss out on the namaz at the specific timing. So this place allows them to, come over, eat something, and also offers privacy for them to pray while being out of their homes. I felt it was an incredible story of, how women are enabling for women now. And this is something that can be, replicated in other parts of the country and other parts of the world as well.
Hmm. That's awesome. It's a great, it's a great smaller scale problem that somebody's found, and they've kind of incubated that and made something great of it, right? So you talked about how eco-friendly solutions are becoming a big thing in India. And one of the companies which I want to talk about is the Sunbird straws, which they've made straws from coconut
Yeah.
leaves, right? And so could you just talk about the impact that plastic straws have on our planet and how these green alternatives are making a difference? I know that there are about 500 million plastic straws littered every day, and it takes
Yeah.
200 years for each one to decompose. So that's horrible.
I mean, more than 8 billion straws are already polluting our oceans. And these are not recyclable. These are, they would decompose in millions of years, or they would have to be incinerated. So the issue is that with billions of straws being dumped ruthlessly, where are we going? We're not able to recycle these. And these straws are posing a grave environmental hazard to not just humans, but to our marine life. They sicken and kill sea animals. We've seen so many horrible images of straws being stuck in the noses and stomachs and mouths of turtles and fish. And that time is not far off when the ratio of plastic is to fish would be 1:3, one fish to three pieces of plastic in the oceans by 2030, it is predicted. So it's high time, I think, we take note of this, that, what can we do to minimize our consumption of plastic straws? These are really damaging, and something that we all need to think about. It's about personal choices. For example, I keep a bamboo straw with me all the time, because if I have to drink coconut water, normally you would find a plastic straw being given along with it. So I
Hmm.
prefer to use a bamboo straw because I can
Yeah.
reuse it every time, and it's
Hmm.
sturdy, it doesn't get damaged. So I think alternatives like these are necessary. And as far as the sunbird straws are concerned, we did a wonderful feature on them, and they explain to us how the process works. Their products are biodegradable. I think they're solving a good problem, and they're getting popular, and they're getting orders from different parts of the world as well. We need innovations like these to solve the issues that we have and look at it from the innovation perspective.
Hmm. And one of the biggest problems, not just the big pieces of plastic, but when they decompose after a few years, they become these microplastics
Yes.
that these animals ingest, and it affects them and future generations of those animals and
Not just
habitats for
animals,
years
humans
to come.
also, because we also
Hmm.
consume seafood. We means a lot of people consume seafood. So that ways, these microplastics are entering our bodies. They are already polluting our soil, our water, and air as well. So no wonder that human body has a fair share of microplastics these days also inhaled.
Hmm. Yep. And you talked about how they're polluting our soil, and one of the biggest factors in that is cigarette butts, actually, which happen to be the most littered plastic object. Not even plastic water bottles aren't littered as much as
Yeah.
cigarette butts. And one of the companies that you guys interviewed, they actually turned these cigarette butts into kind of a soft cotton-like
Yeah.
substance, which they use for soft toys and also mosquito repellent, which is really interesting. So, could you talk
Yes.
about the story behind this company and
Yeah.
what
So
impact it's had?
we interviewed this company some time back, and we did a long story on how they do it. So they basically, they figure out the butts. They collect the butts from more than 250 districts of India. They have a system in place where they would have connections with the rag pickers who will bring all these butts to them. And they have a system in which they separate the three parts of the butts, like the plastic polymer, the paper, and the nicotine. So all these three parts are processed separately, and the polymer part is made to go through some chemical process, in which results in the making of this soft cotton-like substance, which is used to fill the soft toys. So this is another innovation, because we feature a lot of sustainability oriented stories which make a difference
Yeah.
to the planet. So this
Mhm.
is how they're doing it, and they also use the other parts for making, using some other substances for making the mosquito repellents and other interesting innovations. So I think India is now a land of startups where you have hundreds of startups doing wonderful innovations. They're not even reported most of the times.
Mhm.
I'm glad
Yep.
this one got reported widely.
Of course, definitely. It's amazing that you're giving this type of platforms to these smaller startups that could really use it to make a huge difference. And it's not just these other startups. These startups have a huge impact, but some of the other things that are helping the cigarette situation, one is the Microsoft Beach Bot. I don't know if you've heard of it. They made a robot that just scours the beach and picks up cigarette butts, along with um, some countries are using crows to track and pick up cigarette butts. And in France, there's this challenge called the Fill the Bottle Challenge. Kind of like this, there are little containers around the city where people can just put the cigarette butts which they find. And one amazing product which I've seen, it's this company called Green Butts, which the butt of the cigarette is biodegradable and is a um, environmentally friendly compound. But the problem with this is that it's only in one region in Canada and it's only one cigarette company. So it's great that we're finding more solutions for this, especially in India where it's a huge problem, right? And I wanted to talk about another story in which you covered a lady who employs rural girls and founded an IT company, right? I think they're moving to Bangalore, right? Are they?
No, this lady is running an IT company from a semi-urban, or you could say a rural place in Punjab, near Amritsar. So her story is interesting in the sense that she's helping arrest the, what do you call it? The process of people flying to greener spaces, to wealthier spaces like Canada. Punjabis have this fascination of migrating to Canada or migrating to US. So she's trying to help arrest this trend, because she's providing employment opportunities to the rural people, her native village. So she has set up a company over there, and she's equipping the local talent with the skills and then employing them. And I think
That's
this is a trend that is picking up with many large companies as well. Nowadays, location is no longer a barrier to hiring good talent. I've seen in tier two, tier three cities, a lot of big companies are going for hirings, because they understand that there's a huge talent pool which needs to be tapped in these spaces, and they're ready to pick up good hands and train them and skill them as per their work culture, and provide them the opportunities that they need in these spaces only. I mean, they need not travel from their native places to the large cities. Now, these companies have also set up offices in these areas. So I think that is one hiring trend that is picking up in tier two and tier three cities.
hmm definitely. And it's funny because I interviewed a CEO of a company called Isadora Life, which employs rural girls. to make saris, and their specialty saris they take 1 minute to put on, which saves a lot of time for women all
Ready
over
to
the
make sarees, yeah.
country. Yep. I don't. Have you heard of them? Or,
Yeah, a lot of people are doing ready to make sarees.
yeah. So it's awesome. Like you said, a lot of these companies are employing people from all over the country and just giving more opportunities to everyone, right? So I wanted to shift topics a little bit and talk about India's space aspirations. So Chandrayaan 3, if we're talking about innovations in the space industry, that's an amazing one. And my grandmother actually, she in the late 70s and 80s was working on satellites for India that are still up in space right now. So it feels a little bit personal. How do you see companies shaping India's future in space exploration? I know you talked with, I believe, Skyroot, which is one company, right?
Skyroot is a startup which has sent India's first private rocket to space successfully with the help of ISRO. And India has opened up its space sector to the private companies some time back. And that has led to, the growth of these private companies. And it's great because it is helping ISRO, which is the leading and the foremost organization working in the space of space in India. So India has done remarkably well in the last decade or so, and it has come out as a very responsible, cost-effective, economical, and reliable country for space explorations, for sending satellites in space. And India is touted to have a potential to earn 100 billion share of the global space market. Right now, India's share is, I think, around 2%, and it aims to increase it to 9% by the end of this decade, by 2030. And
Mm-hmm.
prominent
Wow.
financial institutions like Morgan Stanley, Citi, and
Yeah.
UBS have predicted that uh, India is at the forefront of the growth in the space sector, and globally, this industry will rise to $1 trillion by 2040. And India has a great chance to seize a good pie because it has built a very sound track record. If you see
Mm-hmm.
year after year, great launches. Aditya L1 was done some time back after Chandrayaan
Yeah.
to study the sun, the solar
Mm-hmm.
mission. So India is forging ahead quite remarkably. Like I said, the space sector has been thrown open for the private companies, for the
Mm-hmm.
startups, and that has also, I think, enabled this growth because ISRO alone cannot do everything. It
Yep.
needs the support of the private sector, and
Mm-hmm.
that is why this is proving to be a big boon.
Mm-hmm. It's comparable to just SpaceX and Blue Origins here in the U.S. as
It's more
those private.
economical, I would say. It's more economical, and that is why countries like US, UK are also sending their satellites through India.
Yep. Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's awesome. So, in your career, you've also had many, I feel like, underrepresented conversations. You've provided a platform, as we discussed before. So, are there any particular interviews or stories that you feel haven't gotten the attention that they deserve and would like to talk about them more?
Uh, there have been many. Like I've done. I don't even remember how many interviews in my career so far, and with the advent of virality, everything doesn't go viral because
Yeah.
everything is not popular. But what is not popular does not mean it is not relevant. It does not matter. So when you are in the thick of news, you come across these stories almost every day. So I think it will be difficult to pick up one such story amongst all
Mhm.
these.
Yeah. I understand that. Um, but I also wanted to ask a kind of personal question, which I thought was interesting.
Hmm.
So, India's global impact and growth has been getting coverage in the U.S. Media, And I wanted to ask you, as an Indian news personality, what what are the differences and maybe similarities that you find uh, comparing the Indian media's coverage of India's growth compared to the U.S. media's coverage?
See, I would not say the US particularly, but the foreign media has been seen to be somewhat biased in the past, featuring on a particular aspect of how India was and how India is now. So I think that era is over. What India was, now India is booming. It is one of the favorite investment grounds for most of the countries, most of the companies, and most of the investors. So, like you've seen also in the US and other parts of the world, there is a wave of nationalism sweeping in the media corridors as well. So India is not different in that way. Yeah. But the Indian growth story is getting carried very well, I would say. And there's a difference when a foreign journalist looks at what is happening uh, from how an Indian journalist looks. There's definitely a difference, but I think there's been this divide between the foreign media and the Indian media. Indian media now is having a more nationalistic flavor, and the foreign media sometimes obviously is not expected to do the same. So sometimes they've been accused of having biased views. So that is debatable. I think let's leave it to that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's good at least that the country and the growth is getting all this coverage anyway, right? Um, so talking about your company, Achichi, um, it brought to my mind, at least when I heard about your mission first, uh, this Zoom podcast sort of mission that one of the I don't know if you've heard of the show The Office, right? Um, one of the characters on that show, one of the actors, John Krasinski, who played Jim in The Office, he made a podcasting platform called Some Good News, right?
Yeah,
And the mission was to inspire people during the pandemic through those videos.
yeah,
But I feel like Some Good News kind of fell flat after a few weeks, right? It
right.
had about 9 good episodes. It dropped off. But Achi Khabar has managed to continue growing, right? So I want to ask you, what are your plans for growing this platform over the next decade, right?
That's a good question. Actually, like you said, the growth did flatten. So in our case, we realized that we started off during the COVID era, and it began very well. And now we are thinking of reshaping it, reshaping to make it more attractive because these days the numbers are more about virality. Virality gives you great numbers, and unless you master the numbers, you won't be looked at in a very good light. So we're working on making more popular, more attractive content while staying true to our roots. And for that, we've taken a pause and we're reshaping and reworking on our strategies and trying to make Achikabar a platform that is here to be an alternative source of good, positive, inspiring content, something that people lap up every day, looking forward to what is new today, something that they completely rely on, that is authentic, credible, and something that they love coming back to.
Hmm. And it seems like you guys will be working really hard to, one, get that popular virality aspect, but also
Mhm.
stay true to your original mission, which is a positive
Yeah.
impact, right? Hmm. So, just to close this off, do you think you could, for our viewers, give us your 5 key takeaways from this session, this podcast?
Mm. I think one shall be open to experimenting, because if you think you know everything, you kind of become dead. So keep yourself open to learning new things, and you never know what that knowledge may give you, how it may help you in future. Second thing would be always prepare yourself. Like you've prepared yourself, you've done your research on what I've done about the nature of my work, on the stories
Yeah.
that we've covered.
Mhm.
So I think research is something that I put a lot of emphasis on, even in my personal work, because that is something that helps you stand apart. That is something that makes you shine, that
Yeah.
you know your work, you know the basics.
Mhm.
Third would be productive. Make this an aim that how can you be more productive, how can you squeeze more production, more output out of what you do, how are you more relevant every day.
Of course.
Next would be impact. What is the impact that you're making? Is there something that you're doing that is impacting the society, the work, or the world at large? How are you contributing to something that makes a difference? That is also closely aligned with your purpose in life. I think a lot of people are yet to discover their purpose. Once you are aligned with your purpose, it serves a great bridge to being successful. Though it may take time, but if you are on purpose, you'd be happy for sure. I think these are the key things I would like to state.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thanks so much for joining us today for our New Year's special. It was really great to have you. Thanks so much to our viewers for tuning into this episode of the Exponential Edge podcast. And tune in next week to see people, trends, and businesses that will see exponential adoption in the future. Let's have a great 2024, everyone. And thank you all. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me.